Good afternoon, everyone. Today I want to present to you the idea of the intersection of literature and psychology by exploring Emily Dickinson's poem, There's a Certain Slant of Light. This is a poem about much more than winter afternoons. It's about the kinds of emotional and spiritual experiences that profoundly shape how we see ourselves in the world. My intention today is to take you on a short journey to unpack the psychological depth of this poem, explore what it teaches us about the human condition, and provide some context about Dickinson herself and the poem's creation. First, let's situate this poem within Dickinson's life and work. Emily Dickinson wrote the poem There's a Certain Slant of Light around 1861, during what many scholars consider her most prolific and introspective period. Living in 19th century Amherst, Massachusetts, Dickinson was surrounded by a culture steeped in puritanical tradition. This made her willingness to question faith and mortality even more revolutionary. She doesn't offer easy answers. She invites us to dwell in the discomfort of unknowing. This was also a time of intense emotional and spiritual turmoil for her. Dickinson was in her early 30s, living in near seclusion, and grappling with questions of faith, mortality, and meaning. It's worth noting that this was during the American Civil War, a time when the atmosphere of death and despair permeated the country. While Dickinson's poems rarely mention the war directly, the existential weight of the era may have influenced her reflections. In today's world, we all encounter our own slant of light, moments of existential weight, whether triggered by global events or personal struggles. Dickinson's poem reminds us that these moments, though painful, are also opportunities for introspection and growth. Her insight remains as relevant now as it was over a century ago. Now, let's examine the poem's central metaphor, the certain slant of light. On the surface, this is a description of the light on a winter afternoon, a natural occurrence. But Dickinson transforms it into something much deeper, a moment of existential awareness. She writes that this light oppresses, like the heft of cathedral tunes. Here, Dickinson draws on the emotional weight of sacred music, which can evoke both reverence and discomfort. Think of the haunting sound of an organ in a silent church. It forces you to confront something larger than yourself. Psychologically, moments like these can act as triggers for introspection, compelling us to grapple with life's profound questions about purpose and mortality. Dickinson goes on to describe the light as delivering a heavenly hurt. She writes, "We can find no scar, but internal difference, where the meanings are." This is where the poem aligns most closely with psychological insight. The heavenly hurt, she describes, is a kind of pain that doesn't leave visible wounds, but profoundly alters our internal landscape. In psychological terms, this might reflect the quiet, transformative pain of grief, existential dread, or even depression, what we might call psychic pain. These moments of emotional or spiritual suffering often force us to confront hidden truths, leading to personal growth or a deeper understanding of ourselves. Dickinson captures this beautifully. The pain doesn't destroy us, but it changes us. This relates closely to existential therapy, a psychological approach that encourages individuals to face uncomfortable truths about existence, our mortality, our freedom, and our isolation, and find meaning within these truths. Dickinson's heavenly hurt aligns with this idea. It's painful, but it's also a necessary part of the journey towards self-awareness. What's particularly striking about Dickinson's perspective is that she writes so convincingly about the world and its passions, despite living as a virtual recluse. Imagine this: someone who rarely left her home, who saw the world primarily through letters, books, and moments of quiet observation, capturing the weight of human experience with such universal resonance. I invite you to consider what that says about the power of the human mind. Dickinson's poetry wasn't shaped by external experiences, but by her capacity to perceive and process the inner workings of life. This makes her work all the more remarkable. It's a testament to the richness of inner life and the depth of her intellectual and emotional insight. Returning to the poem, Dickinson uses the setting of a winter afternoon as a metaphor. Winter is often associated with dormancy, stillness, and decline. Winter afternoons in particular are fleeting and dim, evoking a sense of impermanence. Psychologically, we might think of winter as a metaphor for periods of profound reflection in our own lives, times when outward activity slows, and we're left alone with our thoughts. For some, this brings clarity. For others, despair. The poem concludes with a haunting image. When it comes, the landscape listens. Shadows hold their breath. Here, Dickinson personifies nature, showing how even the world seems to pause in response to this light. It's a powerful depiction of the stillness and intensity of existential moments. Finally, she writes, "When it goes, 'tis like the distance, on the look of death." The aftermath of this experience leaves a void, a sense of detachment, as if the world has shifted. Psychologically, we might think of this as a kind of post-crisis quietude, the reflective calm that follows moments of profound emotional or spiritual upheaval. As we close, I invite you to think about a moment in your life when something ordinary, a shift in the weather, a quiet afternoon, which made you pause and feel the weight of existence. What did it reveal about you, about the world? Dickinson's brilliance lies in turning those fleeting moments into poetry. How might you capture yours? So, what does this poem teach us? It reminds us that moments of existential reflection, though uncomfortable, are essential to our growth. They allow us to confront the mysteries of life and death, of meaning and purpose. These moments may feel oppressive, like the heft of cathedral tunes, but they also open the door to transformation. And isn't that, in many ways, the purpose of self-exploration? Finally, as you reflect on Dickinson's work, I encourage you to think about your own slant of light. Those rare, painful, yet meaningful moments that shape who you are. And consider too the brilliance of a mind like Dickinson's, one that took the quiet of a reclusive life and transformed it into a mirror for our shared humanity. Her poetry invites us to look inward, not to avoid the world, but to better understand it, and ourselves. Dickinson's poem isn't just about light or winter. It's about the human condition, the ways we grapple with meaning, mortality, and the inescapable presence of our inner lives. In exploring this, she shows us that even in moments of despair or discomfort, there is beauty. As psychologists, literary scholars, or simply as people, we can learn to embrace these moments as essential parts of what it means to live and grow. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this discussion has deepened your appreciation for the profound interplay between literature and psychology, and how the two can illuminate the human condition. Emily Dickinson's There's a Certain Slant of Light is more than a poem about a winter afternoon. It's a meditation on those fleeting yet transformative moments that force us to confront our inner worlds. Her words remind us that the human experience is shaped not only by what happens to us, but by how we interpret and give meaning to those experiences. Dickinson's ability to articulate the intangible, grief, reflection, spiritual struggle, is a testament to the power of introspection and creative expression. In examining her work through the lens of psychology, we see how art can help us navigate the complexities of existence, offering both solace and challenge. I encourage you to carry forward this lens of inquiry, to see art and psychology as partners in understanding the depths of our emotions, our purpose, and the stories we tell ourselves about the world. Thank you, and I will see you next time.